Right. Class. Yep. Nope. Did not forget at all. Not at all. Not at all. Welcome back to summer school, week 2. Last week, we looked at the question, what is the text about, and worked with skills relating to central idea. This week, we're looking at the question, why was the text written, and we're working with skills related to author's purpose. To start off today, let's define author's purpose. Author's purpose is, shockingly, the reason why an author has written a text. Now you might be saying,
why does it matter why the author wrote the text? I'm the one reading it.
That's fair. However, if you don't know how to identify an author's purpose, you're actually making your own job as the reader much more difficult. For example, Tuesday, September 1st, 10 a.m., 6 days to school and counting. I thought I'd wear my pencil-lined skirt the first day back with hold-up stockings and ankle boots. I'm still not really resolved in the makeup department because I know I'll have to wash off my makeup during PE class. On the other hand, I cannot possibly risk walking to school without makeup on. I'm really not sure that I'm following Louise Renison's argument here. What ideas is she exactly trying to convey? I can't see it here. Or, that's why we as a community have to unite behind this initiative and do everything in our power to create change in our community. All right, good to know. Or, mitosis is a type of cell division in which one cell divides to produce 2 new cells that are genetically identical to itself. In the context of the cell cycle, mitosis is the part of the division process in which the DNA of the cell's nucleus is split into 2 equal sets of chromosomes. Gosh, that's so boring! So guys, here's the tea.
Spill the tea, sis.
When you read, you don't read all texts the same way. We approach text differently based on what type of text it is, how it was written, and why it was written. So understanding an author's purpose helps you read correctly so you get what you need out of a text and don't end up frustrated.
That's so boring.
My examples, I was reading 3 different types of text in the wrong way, assuming they were written for purposes other than what they were. And that's why I wasn't getting out of the text what I wanted. So today we're going to keep it simple and just make sure we understand those main purposes that authors have when they write. We'll also look at where do you typically find those sorts of texts. Tomorrow we'll work on strategies for how you can identify author's purpose if you're not clear. Now at this point in time, you probably had a teacher who has talked to you about author's purpose and has used the acronym PIE.
Did somebody say pie?
Now, pie is not just a delicious pastry treat, although pie is an acronym for the main types of author's purpose. The P in pie stands for persuade, the I in pie stands for inform, and the E in pie stands for entertain. For the explanation in this video, I'm just going to actually flip the pie over.
Here I come. Oh no.
And start with entertain. Why I'm choosing to do this is that most likely the early part of your years as a reader, those were the texts you were reading. When the author's purpose is entertainment, the main goal is engaging you, the audience. For some reason, when I hear purpose is to entertain, I think of like a stand-up comedian. I think that it's going to be something that's funny, right? But don't get confused, not all texts that entertain are funny. When the author's purpose is to entertain, it's often to tell a story which could be funny, or it could be dramatic, or it could be scary, or it could be very realistic. So why I suggested that entertain was the author's purpose for much of your early reading is because all literature falls in this category. Novels, poems, plays, etc. So a lot of us grew up either reading little storybooks or having our parents read to us, and for the most part, the purpose was to entertain. Now, we talked last week about central idea, and we talked a little bit about the idea of theme and how theme reveals the lesson, message, moral of a story. If you're reading a story that didn't actually take place, even if you learn a lesson from it, the author's purpose was to entertain. There are other types of writing that are nonfiction whose purpose still is to entertain, but typically we also see that in a narrative format. One author that I really enjoy, his name is David Sedaris, and he writes about his real life, things that really happened. but he's not trying to like teach me about his history or persuade my thinking or anything. He's telling me funny stories from his life that are purely meant for entertainment, even though they really did occur. Going to the next level of the backwards pie is the second type of author's purpose you've had the most experience with at a young age, I would assume, and that is inform. Again, as suggested, when an author is trying to inform you, their sole purpose is to inform and educate. So where do we find texts where the author's purpose is to inform? I think one of the most obvious places is in, wait for it, informational texts, so like your textbooks or in the news or in other types of informative writing where you're not really being entertained, you're not really being led to think a certain way, you're just getting information. And finally, we come to the top of the pie, persuade. When an author is trying to persuade in their writing, they're trying to convince you to think a certain way or change your thinking or point of view or get you to agree with them or encourage you to take action. Why I save persuasion for last is because it doesn't quite follow the same easy rules as the others. Persuasion can pop up all over the place. It could be in a television commercial trying to get you to buy a product, or a political ad trying to get you to vote for a candidate. It could be a speech to a committee or an entire text trying to convince you to agree with an author's proposal. Anytime you feel like someone is trying to change your thinking or get you to take action, you're reading a persuasive piece. Of the author's purposes we've mentioned, persuasion is the one to be the most careful of because oftentimes authors are trying to convince you of things that may or may not be correct or good for you.
It's easy as pie!
So there's two more lesser used types of author's purpose that I'm going to introduce you real quick. The first one is describe. Although description itself can fall in lots of different types of writing, sometimes an author literally just does write to describe an experience. We see this a lot of time in like travel pieces or concert reviews or food critic blogs, anytime the author is trying to convey an experience to you. You just have to be careful that that is the only reason the author is writing, because a lot of times description can fall in the entertainment category. And the final one is explain. Explain as an author's purpose often looks like a how-to, so like where you're getting guidance or directions on how to do something, or the author is communicating a specific process. So like step-by-step guides, procedural outlines, things like that. Lang and Lit, we're going to stick pretty much with pie for right now, but 6X, I might incorporate a little bit more of the explain and describe with you guys. When you don't understand an author's purpose, it can create a lot of frustration for you. Like in my example, I was reading a text where the author's purpose was to entertain, but I was reading it as if it was intended to persuade me of something. So I was looking for a point or an argument that wasn't there. This is a very silly book and very funny. It's not persuasive, just entertainment. In my second example, I was reading an editorial out of the newspaper that was intended to persuade me. It was a call to action. I was supposed to do something with the information I was receiving, but I read it as if it was intended to inform. So I kind of missed the whole point and went about my day. In my final example, I was reading about mitosis, and the author's purpose was simply to inform me about that biological process. However, I was reading as if it was meant to entertain. So I was looking for it to be funny, but that wasn't the point. The point was to give me information. We work on determining author's purpose so that you can get from a text what an author wants you to get from it without feeling frustrated or like you're missing out on something. So remember, understanding author purpose is reading smarter, not harder. All right?
It's a wonderful, wonderful day.